Hi there, everyone. This is Darren from SimNation. Just doing a recap video for SNCFL, which is our Draft Day Sports College Football 2025 League here at SimNation. We have lots of good teams open. A couple of coaches have decided to move on. No particular reason. I think it's just they're busy. And this is a cyclical thing with these online leagues, mostly because people do get busy. So Florida State is now open. Just Sample has decided to move on. There are a couple other teams I'll highlight as we go through this video that you might be interested in. This is a great league if you want to join. There's a lot of learning here. It's a good community. I would highly recommend it. If we look at the top 25, of course, Maryland dropped out of the #1 spot from the last video, not because they lost, but because they had a bye week. So right now, #1 is UCLA, and of course, that's Stewart. #2 is Louisiana Monroe, who is in the SEC. Yeah, this isn't real life. And that's Skeltor, who's been a long time coach here. Maryland is #3, which is one of my teams. Georgia, which is Shark, is #4. Georgia's having a pretty good season. We're already probably looking forward to that Georgia versus Louisiana Monroe game. Western Michigan is another one of Stewart's team. They are 5-0. At some point, they'll move to a major league. I just have to figure out which one. Rutgers is Kevin. He's coming in at #6. #7 is Auburn. That's Invisible Witness. He's the same coach who every year is in the feels like every year he's in the championship game in WWPF, which is our Draft Day Sports Pro Football League. #8 is Virginia Tech, which is Bama. He's having a really good year in the ACC. #9 is Colorado, which is one of my teams. #10, rounding out the top 10, is Kent State, which is Brian, who is another really, really good coach in both the college and the pro league. So is Stewart, as well as Shark, and Kevin. And I already mentioned Invisible Witness. Bama's also in the pro league. So if you're interested in the pro league, I would recommend WWPF. It's a really competitive league with lots of good coaches. And of course, we will adopt a Draft Day Sports Pro Football 2025 when it becomes available. It's currently in beta testing. So Duke is Stewart, who another one of his teams with he's 4-0. So at some point, I think it may actually be this week, Duke and Virginia Tech are going to collide, and one of those two is not going to be undefeated anymore. Boise State is a really good CPU team, just like in real life. Uh, if anybody's interested, Nebraska is Skeltor, who I think they play Maryland this week, so one of those two teams won't be undefeated. Michigan is Stewart's other team. Yeah, he has a lot of teams in the top 15. So I would say that Stewart's doing really good with Michigan. I want to say that they lost to USC, which is Brian, if I remember correctly. I'll look at that in a second, but I'm pretty sure that's who they lost to. Cincinnati is going to be DWK, who is another one of the pro coaches as well. He has the Giants. I think he has the Giants. Yeah, I'll have to look at that. It's either him or Cable. I think Cable actually has the Giants. Oklahoma State is a really good team that's open. Used to be Frankie. So if you want to join the league, the Big 12 is one of the more competitive divisions. USC is Brian, as I mentioned before. Arkansas State is the undefeated team out of the Sun Belt. If you're interested, they have a pretty good team. Memphis is also another good CPU team. Coastal Carolina is Shark. Sooner or later, these two teams are going to tussle, and one of them will either still be undefeated or one of them won't. Clemson is one of the teams I have. They're not one of my Zero to Heroes. They're just a team I'm trying to rebuild. I mentioned Florida State is open. This is used to be just Sample. Notre Dame is the Zero Hero team that I have. Iowa State is another one of Sharks' teams in the Big 12, and he's rebuilt them from scratch. They were actually at one point one of the lowest prestige teams. And then you have Tennessee, which is Udo, who's one of our German coaches, and he's doing a fantastic job with Tennessee. This is kind of mirroring real life. They should be ranked higher, actually, but that rounds out the top 25. If we look at the standings real quick, Clemson, NC State, this is me versus Starfinder. Clemson should win this one. no shade against NC State. They're a good team, but Clemson just has much more talent. Florida State, Virginia Tech. This would have been a great game if just Sample was there, but Bama will be taking on a CPU team. Bama's Virginia Tech squad is really, really good. As you can see, their quarterback is having a tremendous year. Duke versus North Carolina. Stewart should win this one pretty easily. Syracuse is DP. He takes on Louisville, which was a team I had last year. Louisville is actually having a good year this year, but I think Syracuse will win it if DP is uploading. The rest of the games don't really matter. But as you can see, Florida State is still leading the Atlantic, um, along with Louisville and Clemson, who are essentially undefeated in the Atlantic. On the opposite side, you have Virginia, Duke, and Virginia Tech, who are fighting it out. Miami has an outside shot. Miami currently is open, although Kevin, I think, is going to try to take them back in the offseason. Cincinnati's still undefeated. You have the big matchup of the two undefeated teams in the league between Memphis, which is CPU, and Cincinnati, which is DWK. Um, that one should be a really, really good game. Cable is at Central Florida. I always get those two confused. But they're having a pretty good season. They had some challenges at the beginning of the year, but they're bouncing back. As you can see, Memphis has a really good wide receiver quarterback combo. I'm not going to go through recruiting in this video because I could spend a long time on it. As you can see, Colorado right now is the front runner in the Big 12. They defeated Iowa State. They take on Texas Tech. This should be a win for them, although there's having issues with quarterback this season, which is keeping them healthy. Brigham Young and Iowa State. This is star final versus Shark. Shark should win this. Iowa State has a pretty big talent differential. Uh, Gary should hopefully be coming back sometime at Oklahoma, but Kansas is open. This used to be, oh man, it'll come back to me in a second. But Kansas, Oklahoma State, Baylor, Texas Tech, Texas, Kansas State, and West Virginia all open. They're good teams. The Big 12 used to be one of the most competitive. It still kind of is. But in the Big Ten, what you have is Maryland, Rutgers, and Michigan all really vying for that spot. Indiana's still in there. Ohio State can get back in there relatively easy. But I think it's going to come down to these three for the East. In the West, Skeltor and Barry are, I think that's Barry if I remember correctly. No, sorry, Joe Durman. I don't know why I keep thinking that's Barry. Uh, but Joe is very much still in contention. So if Maryland knocks off Nebraska this week, um, which there's a chance of that, then likely Wisconsin will be right back in that race as long as they don't lose. So you got Michigan versus Indiana. This one should go to Stewart in Michigan, which means he should knock Indiana out of contention. DP versus Penn State. DP should win this one. Maryland's probably going to win this one, even though it's going to be competitive just because there's a talent differential there. Rutgers should easily beat Michigan State. It is a trap game, so Kevin will just need to watch out for that. Right now, as you can see, Herman is probably one of the best in the league at throwing the ball, and Maryland is dominating recruiting. Again, don't want to go into that. In Conference USA, this one is probably going to be Texas San Antonio, but you can see UTEP and Wisconsin. I'm sorry, Louisiana Tech are still in it, and then on the opposite side, it's really between FIU and Marshall. Soa, I think, is at James Madison, but I don't expect him to really play into this season. Independence is not a thing, but Notre Dame is 5-1. Um, Mid-American, again, Western Michigan has a stranglehold on the West. They win it. They win the West almost every year. They've only been challenged once by Central Michigan, uh, but um, outside of that, Akron is in decent shape, but really this is going to come down between Kent State and potentially Buffalo. Brian is at Kent State. He's really done a phenomenal job with them. You can see Bolin is one of the best, and then you see running back Wise Saxon is one of the best running backs. So This week, Western Michigan should beat Bowling Green. Kent State will beat Ball State. Buffalo should beat Northern Illinois. So it should just be interesting to see how this all plays out. In the Mountain West, I don't know that we have any human coaches in the Mountain West, but right now Boise State is the team to beat. UNLV will be the other one. Texas Christian could factor in, but this is really going to likely be UNLV versus Boise State. Boise State just is one of the strongest, and of course they play this week, so one of them will not be undefeated in conference play after this. I think Boise State should win this one relatively easy. Pac-12, again, up in the north, this is one of those where there's a lot of opportunity for someone to join. We do still have the Pac-12. I'm not probably going to make that change for a little bit. But Cal is Bama. And it's really everybody's game at this point. Stanford, Oregon, Oregon State, Washington State. I believe all those teams are open. Washington State, I think, is one of the higher prestige teams. So if you're interested, definitely. In the South, this is where we actually have probably more of the human coaches. So this always comes down between UCLA and USC. So Brian's at USC, Stewart's at UCLA. Right now, I don't think they're going to meet up soon, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Fresno State is Starfinder, so this week you have Starfinder versus Stanford. Fresno State should win this one. This one should be a blowout with UCLA winning this one easily. I believe that Bama will beat Utah relatively easily, and then USC should beat Washington relatively easily. Again, as you can see here, there's a good quarterback at Stanford, but really the guys to watch are going to be at UCLA or at USC or at Cal. In the SEC, this is going to get interesting only for one fact is Invisible and Skeletor are like two coaches that at some point are going to be on a collision course with each other. Historically, Skeletor sucks against Auburn. He's lost to them quite a few times. And now that's Invisible Witness, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays. But they're both undefeated. In the South, really, this is Tennessee, Georgia. Florida's still in it. I think Kentucky is Starfinder, if I remember correctly. But you can see that Cruz is a major reason why Tennessee's doing well. Byron Ashley is doing well. Jose Laney is one of the skeletal type running backs who's just always doing well. The big news since the last one is Invisible got one of the best quarterbacks in the class in Laverne Wynn. So good job there, Invisible. So Auburn versus Mississippi State. This I don't know what the computer is smoking, but there's no way Mississippi State's going to beat Auburn. It's going to be a bloodbath. Or more appropriately, sorry about that, it'll be a rout. Tennessee should easily beat Missouri. That'll be a rout as well. Louisiana Monroe. This is technically SOA versus Skelter, but I don't think SOA's uploaded. So Skelter's probably going to run over Florida. Georgia versus Vanderbilt. Sharks just going to absolutely obliterate Vanderbilt. His Georgia team is one of the better teams in the country. When we look at this one, you have Troy versus Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina and Arkansas State, in my mind, are the two teams to beat, but keep an eye on Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern's only loss was to Notre Dame. Um, and generally speaking, they have a really good coach in DWK. So if I had to guess, it'd be Coastal Carolina, Georgia Southern, Arkansas State, or kind of the front runners. Everyone else is probably kind of running behind. But Coastal Carolina should easily deal with Troy, even though they have the same record. Appalachian State is going to lose to Georgia Southern. Arkansas State should easily beat New Mexico State. As you can see here, the quarterback at the Chanticleers is doing really good and having a good season. And then on defense, you can also see Peter Hargis is having a really good season. If we look at the league leaders real quick, what you'll see is passing wise is Cruz is having a great season. Also, if there's a Sparks and then Neil, all of them are having really good seasons. If we look at rushing yards, no shock that this is pretty much all human coaches minus Schmidt. who's the New Mexico quarterback, who's just doing really good. But it doesn't shock me to see Saxon, Laney, Bolin, and Warden up there. They all come from coaches who have really good pedigree when it comes to running the ball. Ashley's having a great season. It's really good to see a human coach actually have someone, but you can also see Tennessee has 3 wide receivers in the top 10. So great job, Budo. If we look at tackles, don't really kill. Sacks wise, again, you can see that hill with Joe Dorman having someone with 7 sacks as well as Shark with Hargis. So again, really good to see that. And then if we look at the interceptions, this is Gary's team, even though he hasn't really been running them. And then performance wise, you can see Cruz is actually considered to be the best performer. So if you're interested, definitely would love to have you. We do have big games coming up this week. I probably won't do a video tomorrow. I'll probably do another one either on Thursday or Saturday, and just let you know where it is. Because I'll do the Zero Hero instead. But if you're interested, this is a great league. Definitely from a recruiting perspective, I think if you look at it right now, UCLA is off to a really strong start. Michigan. So these are Stewart, Shark, Gary, me, Open, Stewart, Skelter, Bama, Open. So if you're really interested in joining the league, Iowa's a team I would recommend. Miami is another one. And then there's some other good teams like Washington State, Stanford. Pittsburgh is doing pretty well because I had them last season. But as you can see, UCLA is really just catching a whole lot of 5 stars, as is Georgia, and then Maryland are kind of the ones, whereas Michigan is picking up a whole lot of 4 stars. So is Georgia. Again, stars don't matter much to me because some of the 5 stars are busts. But it's always good when you have 8. So Stewart's definitely killing it on the recruiting trail. So if you need, hopefully you like the video. If you do, let me know. If there's something you want me to specifically cover in these recaps, let me know and I will. Hope you have a great night. Talk to you later.